Wow, impressive.
What's impressive?
I was just reading more about her guest. She has achieved so much.
That's a strong woman.
I agree. Hi there, welcome to Stereo. I'm Ashama.
And I am Kamsi. I can't wait for you guys to meet our guest.
Our guest is a broadcaster, a journalist, a poet, a writer, a filmmaker, and a TV personality.
She has been described as one of the biggest champions of the new spoken word renaissance.
We are delighted to have on Stereo the beautiful, awesome Miss Wana Udobang.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here, guys.
Miss Wana, when did the poetry bug bite?
The bug bit me when I was 16. And so when I was 16, I started writing just my feelings on scraps of paper. At the time, I was writing it and I didn't want anyone to sort of read it and know I was writing about them. So that's just how it started. I was kind of trying to code the things I was saying. And then from there, I just realized that, it was kind of poetic. My best friend saw it and she was like, oh, this is very, very poetic. I was like, yeah, okay. So that kind of made me feel like, okay, I'm writing something here. And then from there, I started reading loads more, then continued writing more. And then my friends who I lived with, we all lived in the same house together. They became my first audience. So that's why you have to have friends that encourage you, like the way you guys encourage each other, right?
Yes.
Exactly. So they would say, oh, your poems are really amazing. You're really amazing. And I was like, Personally, I thought they were not very good though. But they really kind of made me feel like they were so good. And then after that, I would go to events and then I would start reading my poems to other people that I never knew and they would clap for me and they'd say, oh, this is really good. What inspired this? That kind of thing. And just made me feel like, okay, I could do this thing. And so that's how I started. I continued writing and then reading. And then before you know, I started like sort of performing and becoming more comfortable with the things I had written. And then I'd like perform in front of lots of people.
And you grew up with seats.
Yes. And so I just continued practicing and reading and writing and reading and writing and performing.
That's nice.
Thank you.
Where do you draw inspiration from when creating a poem?
I draw inspiration from everything. So sometimes it could be my feelings, like how I feel about something. So if I'm really sad, I usually write a poem. Sometimes I'm really happy, I write a poem as well. If I see things that are not very nice happening around me, just things that are really not nice in the world that make you sad, I write them as well. I think that are wrong, like things that happen to young children or girls or even just people. And I think I want to say something about it, so I write a poem about it as well.
Why do you do that?
Because it's a great way to express yourself. It's also a great way to be able to give your voice to something that's happening around you. So sometimes people don't have any power, right? So if you see something bad that's happening, you may not necessarily have any power to be able to really do anything about it, but you can write about it. And when you write about it, other people get to know as well. So it's like you're spreading information, right? So if I do a poem about something, you'll find out about that and you're like, oh, what's this thing about? So now you know what it's about. So now you're aware and then you become more educated as well. And maybe you want to be involved too. And then the more of us there are that know about this thing, then we can help, we can do something about it and make it better.
Do you remember the first time you performed one of your poems in front of an audience?
Oh, I don't, I don't think I remember exactly which one. I know there was a poem I wrote about, I can't remember what it was about. It was so short. But no, I don't actually remember the first poem I performed. I don't, because I've performed so many times now, I've forgotten, and I'm old. So when you get old, sometimes you forget stuff. I know.
Do you know how old you were when you first did a poem in front of an audience?
I think I may have been. When I did a poem in front of my friends, I was maybe 18. Because I started writing the poems when I was like 16, 17, but I never performed in front of anybody. So I think I was maybe 18 when I performed in front of my friends. And then I think 19 or 20, I remember we're going to an event and reading my poem in front of people there. But then I would say maybe 23, then I started really performing in front of audiences.
Are you a bit shy?
Yes, I was nervous. I was so nervous. Oh my goodness. First of all, you just wonder, is anybody listening to you? Are they just going to think she's saying rubbish? So you're so nervous and then people are actually paying attention. So, which is really nice.
It was fun, right?
It was a lot of fun. It's always a lot of fun. I love being on stage.
Wow.
Do you remember how many events you have gone to?
No, so many. I don't. I performed so many times, I've lost count. I performed in Nigeria, I performed in Ghana, I performed in different countries as well.
How many countries have you performed in?
Oh, I can't remember. I performed maybe 6 or so. And the audiences are always very different. There's some audiences that are really like loud and they make a lot of noise when you're performing. And some people like snap fingers. But then there are also audiences who are just really super quiet. And they're just looking at you like, what is she saying? So it's always very interesting trying to please all the different audiences.
I'm sure that made it harder for you when they're looking at you.
Yeah, sometimes. But I think when you do it after a while, you just try to have fun on stage. At the beginning, I'm always nervous though before I go on every performance. But I think when I just get on stage, it feels like I'm free. When it's time to just do a poem or read a poem.
Think about what you were telling your friends.
Exactly. There you go. Like as far as I'm concerned, everybody in the audience is my friend. And they're all there to cheer me on. So I'm there to entertain them. And that's what I do.
That's nice.
Thank you.
Your poems and fictions have been published on various platforms. Do you also have them published in a book collection?
No, I don't have them in the book collection, but I have an audio album. I have 2 audio albums. So they're basically like poetry and sound. So it's a mixture of poems and music together. So my first album was called Dirty Laundry, and my second album is called In Memory of Forgetting.
Sounds catchy.
Thank you.
What was the process of creating the albums like for you?
I was nervous, it was scary, but it was also really a lot of fun because when you're writing a poem, you're doing it by yourself. And it's like this very solo thing that you do. You know when you want to be by yourself, right? You're just like thinking deeply and you're writing it. So you're doing it by yourself. And then
you're having fun.
Exactly, you're having fun while doing it. But it's just only you. Nobody else gets to be a part of that. And then when you want to make an album, you have to work with a producer. So there are other people in the room. So it's no longer this just thing that was just for you anymore. Now somebody else is in the room. But that's also fun too, because then I also have a producer who makes music, and then I listen to the beats that they've made, like the music that they've made, and I'm also trying to see how the words can flow with the music, right? So that it becomes a different kind of music. So it's like my voice as I'm saying these words, and then the sound of the music come together to create a different kind of music. So that's always a lot of fun.
It will sound very, very beautiful.
Thank you, yes, and I think it does, actually.
Do you remember when you first did an album?
What year was that? Oh my gosh. Yeah, I remember the first album. I don't even remember the year all of a sudden because it feels like it was so long ago. But I was so nervous because it was the first time. It was like the first album, right? And I'd never done an album before. So I was just scared. I was like, are people going to like it? Or
are people going to laugh at it?
Exactly! That's all I was thinking. So by the time people like bought it and they listened and they were like, oh, it's really good, they really like it, I was like, because I was so scared.
What does poetry mean to you?
Oh, poetry is freedom. It's expression. That's what poetry means to me. It's freedom. It's the place I feel the most free.
And joyful.
Yes.
Let's get a taste of that poetry magic.
Dear Father, you are an uncomfortable conversation. Each memory, a running tear scalding my face, my heart is an open wound. Dear Father, You are a tedious sentence. Each word convoluted like the stitches looped across my chest. My skin is mangled in scars. Dear Father, with every misstep I feel the ground limp beneath my feet. Every day is a balancing act of forgiveness and letting go, of which both I fail recklessly. Dear Father, I'm finding my way back to anger because anger is a name I can pronounce. I seek to ask but one question, yet I fear I know the answer. I will ask you regardless. Why did you stop holding my hand? Dear Father, why did you let me go?
We still have Miss Wana in the stereo studio.
Yay.
Your broadcasting career started right after your university graduation.
Yes.
Could you take us down that journey?
Ooh, gosh, it feels so long ago now. Well, I studied journalism at university and my major at school. So when you get to university, so when you guys get to university, you're going to do this thing where they call like majors and minors sometimes. So you might have like one the big course you do, and then you have like the little other small ones you do. So the big one I did was in radio, broadcast, and production. And so after I graduated, I was living in the UK, in London. I worked there for a bit, and then I moved back to Nigeria, to Lagos, and then I got a job at Inspiration FM. So there I worked for 6.5 years. And I was presenting different programs on the radio. I presented the morning shift at some point, and I did the evening shift later on. And I had like lots of different shows within my evening time.
I remember how many shows you did.
Oh wow, so many. I did the Breakfast Jam at some point. I did a show called Safe Wheels Driving Tips, which was basically about just helping people through traffic.
Sounds interesting.
Yes, and I did another show called Sharing Life's Issues, where people called and told me about their problems.
Okay. Your works have been featured on several global news networks. How did it feel when you learned about these?
Oh, you guys have done a lot of deep digging about me, haven't you?
Yes, we
I
have.
can see you little researchers. It's always exciting when you have your work published and you have your writing in print, so you see your name. So they call them bylines, right? So you see your name, which is your byline, on the internet, and then everybody gets to share your articles and they get to read it, and it's even more beautiful when it's in paper, so you can keep it as well. So it's always very exciting. It never ever gets boring. So it's always nice. And then always having lots of people reading your work and then sometimes sharing it and giving you feedback, or sometimes even having conversations with your work as well.
Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
She held me in her clay-colored arms, frail and thin, bruised from the warring earth. She suckled me from her fallen breasts, beaten of life. She laid me on her chest. Heart thumping like a steady drumbeat, she said, "You will not be catfish. Point and kill. They will not choose you like they chose me. You came with an entrance. Umbilical cord wound so tight around your neck, like hands pressing against your throat, I feared you would break. The silence was deafening, the longest I had ever heard. The air was stiff and my world stood still. But you came. This thing, starry-eyed and head adorned in a kinky bouquet. From dancing a combi in my womb and somersaulting to praise songs. Believing you had arrived, shrugging those shoulders. You would never listen. Hear me when I say, you will not be catfish. Point and kill. Wriggling like a worm, devoured as prey, licked to the bone. You must tell your daughters this tale. that they will not be catfish, point and kill. They will not choose them like they chose me.
I absolutely love that your performance.
Thank you.
Miss Wana.
Thank you. You guys are so complimentary. Oh my goodness. I love you. Can I just take you guys home with me?
I must say, you have a gorgeous smile.
You have a beautiful name too, Wana. What does it mean?
It means the light of God. So my full name is Wana, which means the light of God.
Okay,
So in other words, brightness.
that's nice.
Thank you.
How often do you get to perform your poems?
Sometimes I perform at certain events. Sometimes I get paid to perform at certain events. So it usually depends on if I get called to perform or if there's maybe like a show and maybe a friend is putting a show together and then I perform there. But I can't really tell how often, but at least once a month I'm performing, at least.
You are also a filmmaker. How many films or TV productions have you made?
Oh gosh, so I've made most of my work in short form. They're short films and they're online. I have to count them now. Is there time for me to count? They're not that many, to be honest. I've made 2 documentaries and 1 documentary series, so that makes 3. I've made 1 short film and then 1 fictional series, so that makes 5. Yeah.
I'm sure you were happy.
Yes, I was. It was very scary. It's always very nerve-wracking. I'm always very nervous when I'm trying new things out, especially because I haven't done it before. So I'm always worried, like, am I going to be good at this? Or am I going to be really terrible?
Even me.
See? But you know the thing, you just have to try. And that is like half of the battle. Yes, and that's half of the battle won. So as they always say, just show up. So just do it. And then after that,
be yourself.
There you go. You're so mature. Oh my God, I love you.
Are there any teaching platforms for kids who you would love to learn poetry, writing, and spoken word poetry?
I think there are some workshops that people organize privately. So I have poet friends who organize workshops. But if you'd like to learn about poetry, maybe I'll organize a workshop for you guys.
Thank you.
You like that, right?
Yes.
Yay.
You have a top-notch portfolio. How have you been able to accomplish all these successes?
Well, thank you for the compliments again. I don't know. I think I really work. I try to work hard. I stay dedicated. So I never give up, however hard things get. So that's one thing. So there are always like lots of bumps along the road, lots of obstacles, but I never ever stop. I never give up. So those are the 2 things I would say I do. But most of all, I really try to have fun when I'm doing stuff. Because sometimes like when you're like overly serious, like, you know, it gets boring. But if you try to have fun while you're doing it,
It'll be a bit funny.
exactly, you enjoy it, it's joyful, you know, and then you really enjoy like the results at the end as well. So I kind of treat everything I do like play. It's like finding out about a new game, you know, so you're trying to discover. So I go into stuff being curious. So imagine like, do you like video games? Yes, you like video games, right? So imagine like when your daddy or your mommy buys you a new video game and you have to discover, you're really excited when you get it, right? But you don't even know anything about it yet, but then you're curious to discover. That's how I approach like all the work I do. So I'm always curious to discover how things work, how this can be better. So even if it's not perfect yet, you can try it again, you can try a new way of doing it, and then you know when you like unlock one level, and then you're really excited and like you now have to go to the next level and the next level and the next level. And then so by the time you're doing it again and again, you're kind of like exactly, you're like a pro. So things get easier. And then the more you do stuff, the more, you know, trying new stuff excites you too. So I just try to stay excited and stay curious.
Great stuff. There's more to come on Stereo.
Welcome back to Stereo. Now we're going to do something extra fun.
We're going to ask a series of questions and you have to answer them as quickly as you can. Are you ready?
No, I'm scared. That doesn't sound like fun. It's so mean.
But it's going to be very fun.
If you say so, yeah, I'm ready.
All right, here we go. Tea or coffee?
Tea.
Music or film?
That's so hard. Music.
Reading or writing?
That's even more difficult. I like to read or write. Okay, writing. Yeah, both.
Comedy or drama?
Drama.
Science or literature?
Literature.
Singing or dancing?
Dancing, because I can't sing. I'm a
Black
terrible
or
singer.
white?
Black.
That was so much fun, Miss Wana.
It kind of was, actually.
Thank you for coming to our show.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
You guys are so awesome.
We'll leave you with a performance by the lovely Miss Wana.
Bye.
Bye.
When I was a little girl, my mother would mix a bucket of dough into the night. Now rising to twice the size of her forgotten dream, she would squeeze each bowl into the searing heat. This was what it took to put clothes on our backs and books in our bags. You see, my mother would never let her children out with an empty stomach. I am a woman now, and I know that I am my mother's heritage. Knowing courage through her blistered hands, knowing fearlessness in the lines of her smiling face. Sometimes we barter in silence like people do secret handshakes. She remembers the woman who hawked the clothes off her back to keep me here, and I recall the little girl trapped between a shop floor and a tuition payment, too far away from home to know if I would ever make it. But somewhere between our silence and the humming generator, my mother whispers, "We made it." You are the unanswered dream you have been waiting for. You are the rebirth to your shrunken spirit. You are liquid gold and fairy dust. You are DNA, a tapestry of miracle, myth, and magic. You are punching between ideas and dreams. You are connecting galaxies. You are weaving planets. You are multitasking. You are the inheritance of greatness. You are the blessing of your mother's tongue. You carry the universe in the chamber of your chest. You are made to walk on water. And so if they ever tell you this revolution will not be televised, tell them you stood at the foot of your ancestors calling yourselves back from the dead. Tell them that you are your grandmother's buried bones. Tell them that you have unknotted the silence binding your throats. Tell them that you are writing your memoirs in real time. And so if they ever tell you that this revolution will not be televised, tell them that you are the revolution.